most disrespected person in America is the black woman.
Good. Good.
I understand,
Absolutely
Senator,
good. I hope you are.
To do
Good.
Allow her to finish, please.
cases. No one case can stand in for a judge's entire record.
Okay, but I'm discussing
And
every one of the cases. So if you're not going to explain it, then I'm
Senator,
gonna...
would you please let her respond?
No, not if she's not going to answer my
Well, if
question.
you're just
People commit
Judge, you
in
gave
this
him 3
area.
months. My question is, do you regret it or not?
Senator, what I regret is that in a hearing about my qualifications to be a justice on the Supreme Court, we've spent a lot of time focusing on this small subset of my.
Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. It is Thursday, March 24th, 2022. Before we get started, we take a moment to remember former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, who died yesterday at the age of 84. The history maker was beloved on both sides of the aisle, having worked with Presidents Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton and serving as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. The Black press remembers Madeleine Albright. Now, and let me start this morning with this. No-nonsense Black women have a language of their own, and anybody who was raised by one will recognize it instantly. No, it's not to say that Black women are snappy and quick to anger, but they don't and shouldn't take kindly to disrespect. If you grew up in a home with a Black woman, you may have heard phrases like, first of all, check your tone. Oh, you smelling yourself. And keep playing and see what happens. In short, Black women don't suffer fools too kindly or easily. And these Supreme Court nomination hearings have presented a host of foolish, childish, and most of all, disrespectful behavior that had Black women and anyone with a sense of decency everywhere rooting for one of two things: for Judge Jackson to verbally, in a classic "You've pushed me too far," shred Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, and the gang of entitled jerks masquerading as senators, or that some brother would have walked in that room and told them, hey, meet me outside at 3 o'clock. Then along came the Senate's version of Black Panther, Cory Booker. It's hard for me not to look at you and not see my mom, Cory Booker said, not to see my cousins, one of them who had to come here and sit behind you. She had to have your back. I see my ancestors and yours. Don't worry, my sister. The chamber went quiet as this brother spoke up for his sister, passionately spoke up. He said, don't worry, you're here. And I know what it's taken for you to sit in that seat. You have earned this spot. You are worthy. With that, Booker, at least temporarily, put an end to the overt, ugly disrespect. Indeed, as Malcolm X said decades ago, the most disrespected woman in America is the Black woman. This morning, we just dissect what happened in that den of vipers called the Hart Building and what to expect going forward with four incredible Black women: Denise Rolock Barnes, the publisher of the Washington Informer; Cheryl Smith, publisher of Texas Metro News and iMessenger Media; Paris Brown, the editor of the Baltimore Times; and Rashonda Tate Billingsley, the managing editor of the Defender Network in Texas. Denise, I'm going to start with you. I mean, have you seen a proceeding like that? And as a Black woman, in fact, Denise went to law school. So as a Black woman, how did that make, what was going on inside of you watching how these senators just totally disrespected Judge Jackson?
Well, Stacey, there was a sense of pride that bubbled up in me that was so strong. Because I know, or I truly believe that Judge Jackson knew what she was headed for. She was prepared for this moment. She's been preparing for this moment for most of her life. She had her parents behind her, which means that what she spoke is what she's been taught. The way she spoke it is the way she's been raised. And she knows what she's talking about. And she knows foolishness when she sees it. So, I just thought it was a tremendous demonstration of strength, of restraint, of grace, of everything you can think of. And I was proud of her. I mean, she, as Cory Booker said, she probably reflected on what other Black women have gone through in this country forever. I mean, if this is all I have to deal with, bring it on. So disrespect, I think she understood that this is what this proceeding was going to be like and was prepared for it.
Yeah, and I hear you, Denise, but it seems like no other Supreme Court nominee has ever been subjected to this type of disrespect. Cheryl, you watched, obviously, like everyone else on this panel, your takeaway from the behavior of Senators Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, and others.
I wasn't surprised. I'm here in the great, let me stop. I have to stop there because there's so much that goes on in this state. I just can't say it. I'm here in Texas, but I tell you, I don't know if I've ever been more proud to be born in Newark, New Jersey than I was yesterday, listening to the senator. There was something in the pit of my stomach. I mean, in fact, I felt it in my womb because Black women are mistreated at every level, so much so that sometimes we disrespect each other. And it just evoked, if I could think of every slavery movie I have ever seen, to see the likes of how they responded to and cut her off and tried to devalue the judge. And it was very frustrating for me. And what kept me listening and watching was for her responses, because I knew she was going to be ready for them, because we are all ready. Folks say Black women are strong. We're not strong because we just want to be strong. We have to be strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And Paris Brown of the Baltimore Times, Senator Leahy said, to see what this highly qualified, remarkable woman had to face is a shame on those who try to declare themselves as senators. Paris, Senator Leahy's remarks really struck a tone there. Your thoughts?
I agree. I agree with all of the women here. I'm not surprised. Their behavior was consistent with what we've seen, throughout the last 4 years. I mean, so there was nothing I was surprised at, and I agree. I was waiting for her response. I mean, she operated and she presented herself with such grace, and I too waited for the response. I think that she knew what she was going into. I can't say that I'm surprised though by their behavior. It was childish. It was foolish. Pulling out report cards. I mean that. So yeah, I totally agree. She was ready for it, and I believe, and she knows that we all have her back. And I really appreciate what Cory Booker did was gave her a hug and said, he spoke for every single Black person in America. He says, "Girl, we got your back. We love you. You're going to be all right." And that was what she needed to hear at that particular point. You're going to be all right. You only have a few more days of this. You're doing great. And we know that he said some things that only we can dissect as Black people. We got it. Now, for them, they heard, I don't know what they heard, but we know what we heard as Black people.
Rashonda, as Paris said, we know what we heard as Black people, but Rashonda, what was the feeling as you watched this circus?
As I looked, all I could think was, if I was built for this was a person, it would be Ketanji Brown Jackson. I kept saying, gosh, she was built for this. If it were me, that's why I don't run for public office, because I would have been throwing Mike at Ted Cruz. Her poise, her composure was it was just phenomenal, because they came at her with everything they had. When you look at how Brett Kavanaugh's reaction versus how she reacted, it was just, I was really, really proud the entire time. And it also hammered home for me why voting is so important. I actually posted that on my social media page because, Ted Cruz barely won. Lindsey Graham barely won. It all boils down to, this is why we need to vote, because these type of people are sitting there, they're giving her a hard time, and they laid out the red carpet for someone like Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah, Denise, throughout the proceedings, obviously the different Republican senators, of course, Democrats spoke as well, questioned her as well. But was there anything on the Republican side that you found to be useful in all of this?
Well, I think, some of the questioning I took is almost necessary to help to understand how judges reach their opinions and how Congress itself helps to shape the laws, and going back to what Shonda said about, why it's important to vote, but how these laws are shaped. And so as a judge, how you have to exercise your opinions based upon the law. The judges don't make the laws up, the Congress does. And so, in the questioning, as it related to some of the decisions that she made, but how she reached those decisions, I thought was very instructive for those who think. And I remember her saying, even talking about some of the incarcerated folks who, because of COVID, may have been, there was a decision to want to release them, but having her or understand how they got there, what impact that they had on their community. I mean, just the things that go through her mind when she reaches her decisions, to me, I think were instructive for people who really don't understand how the different aspects of our society work.
And that's, Denise, that's a very important point, because the majority of people don't know.
Right.
And for us to assume, just like when we're writing stories or when we're giving a speech, you can't assume that they know. The majority do not know. They watch television, they watch Law and Order SVU or something, and that's where they form their opinion. So she explained a lot of things, Stacey, and she also put things into perspective, because she is right, because folks will blame the system and not take responsibility for their actions or inactions. These senators asking questions, the thing about it, and I tweeted about, they were saying she was being grilled. No, she wasn't. They weren't throwing tough questions at her. They were throwing the same questions at her over and over again, and it was like an annoying gnat.
Yeah.
It was not getting deep. Some of the questions were so superficial and childish and menial, if you will. And, you just, I could see when I was watching her, I said, she has to be really frustrated. Just like I would think that some of the justices sitting now had to be frustrated when they saw Amy coming on the court, because they clearly had to say she doesn't belong here. And so here she is sitting up here talking to people who are clearly out of their league, and they are actually trying to challenge her.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather hear questions from a fifth grader than, I saw it being annoying. I didn't think they exasperated her or they asked her tough questions. What made it tough was the long hours of sitting there between bathroom breaks, and we are women. And I think if there had been more women, and this is a call out to women, sororities, fraternities, everybody, but for women, especially in women's groups, all those white women who wanted us with them wearing pink hats and all of this stuff and marching with them, women should be speaking out and saying, do not treat us like this. Do not treat the mothers of this world like this, because that was irresponsible. And if I had been married to one of them, oh Lord,
we see
married to one of them.
Yeah, we just saw Congresswoman Cori Bush. Actually, we just saw her tweet there to the Black women and girls watching Judge Jackson's confirmation hearing at home. You may hear a lot of racist dog whistles, a lot of digs at her intelligence and insults that are rooted in some senators' fears of Black women's intellect. Know this: we will not let them win. But with that said, though, Rashonda, Paris, Denise, Cheryl, Could the chair, the Democratic chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Dick Durbin, could he have done a better job controlling the onslaught of nonsense?
I mean, yeah, I agree that there needs to be some Robin Rules of Order. You would think that they would know better, but obviously they don't. I think, and I agree with Cheryl that she set the stage to inform, but at the same time, when you looked at, when her record was challenged, I even knew that she evaluated each on its own merit, and that's what a good judge does. And so she informed, look, the laws are made by Congress. I'm following the laws. But as a judge, I also have a responsibility to look at all of the evidence and evaluate it based on that. And I think that's what we clearly saw. We were informed, I think, as a people of the judicial process.
We certainly were informed from Ketanji Brown Jackson's standpoint. We was not informed by the questioning. But again, Rashonda, could Dick Durbin have done a better job as chairperson?
I think that he tries to an extent. I do think. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
I think that he tried to an extent. But gone is the decorum. That went out the window since the Trump era. They just don't respect the rules. They don't have the decorum. And when they want to blurt out, like Ted Cruz did, they just blurt and they continue. So I think they came in with a mission, their PowerPoints and their selected passages out of books. They came in ready, and regardless, they were not going to be dismayed in trying to take her down.
Yeah, well David Youngblood.
Stacey, you asked a good question, but the thing about it is sometimes you have to let people see.
Well,
and you have to let them see the foolishness.
And that's what David Youngblood wrote in, just that, Cheryl. He says Durbin was correct. He let America see the bigotry. He allowed them to hold up a mirror to themselves, and America saw it. We're talking about strong Black women. The four we have on this panel: Claudette Perry, our executive administrator at NMPA, she says the chair should have been stronger. Jackie Hampton of the Mississippi Link also wrote in. Jackie mentions that she was so proud of Cory Booker for standing up for the remarkable judge. And of course, Dr. Nicole McDaniel writes in as well. But so we saw questions about the Supreme Court and about transparency on the Supreme Court, which was really rich in itself, because as the hearings were going on, the Supreme Court, several hours into the hearing, I should say, the Supreme Court issued an unsigned order that seemed to further narrow the reach of the Voting Rights Act while also blocking a state legislative map in Wisconsin that had been put forward by Democrats and adopted by the Wisconsin Supreme Court. The order came down on what's been called by court observers as the shadow docket, meaning the interventions from the court that come in emergency disputes where the court hasn't gone through its full formal briefing process. It's the transparency. And that's one of the things that they should have really been on more than these other questions about her sentencing, right?
Yeah, Stacey, I agree, because there are a couple of things, and I think I don't know if I heard it there, but one, it's good for us to have a seat at the table, regardless of what the majority will be on the Supreme Court. We need another seat at the table, but more so than a seat, we need a voice that's spoken and heard at the table in the conversation. Because you're right. I mean, there are decisions that the Supreme Court is moving on that they're trying to get her to react to right now, which she won't, which is good. But we've got to have that voice there. And one other thing that I have to bring in as a Washingtonian, while you're talking about these other states, I mean, recognize that the district has no voice. We don't have a member of the Senate. We have no vote, again, that voice at the table. So all we are the folks that are sitting up in the balcony looking down and hoping that, the decisions will be made that impact us as well. But this is the importance of the district getting voting rights or statehood. so that we can have a voice in the Senate. And if people don't understand that in this conversation, recognize that over 600 or close to 700,000 district residents are looking at this movie and not, don't even have a ticket. All we can see is the previews. Essentially, I'm trying to make up some analogy, but you know what I'm saying.
It's a good analogy. I think it's good.
Not a vote, and it's disturbing. It's disturbing that we don't have a vote. Congressman Norton, Eleanor Holmes Norton, has no vote on the floor. She has. I mean, we've just got figureheads, and we are we are tax-paying citizens that ought to have a right. And this is coming not from as a journalist, this is coming as a DC voter, a resident of the city, and this lifelong struggle that we've had to be able to make decisions like this. Who will represent us? Because her rulings and everybody on that Supreme Court rulings impact us as residents of the city, and we can't say there.
Yeah, I'm going to throw this one to you, Cheryl. This comes from another, who I consider another strong Black woman, a really great journalist, Lauren Burke of the Burke File. She says, Durbin should have shut them down numerous times and did not. She says, the Democrats on the committee, this is a quote, have no gangster-like Kamala was before she was vice president. Cheryl, I think that's a Cheryl Smith question right there.
The Democrats are, I just have to call them like they are. And when you're in, we need some gangsters. And she is so right. And I was looking at it and I was thinking as Denise was talking, are we going to get a gangster from DC if they get statehood? Because, this is really, we need people. There were ways that people did in the hearings. They did get out her record and talk about how she had more experience than all the others sitting there on the Supreme Court. And there were ways that folks got stuff out, but there should have been more Cory Bookers, and they didn't have to look like Cory Booker because we don't have that many on in the Senate anyway. But other people, I'm like, we always speak up and take up for everyone. And if that didn't show us something, we know what the numbers in the census have shown us. And I've said it before that we need to be working on a census that will come up again in another 8 years, because I was talking with Congressman Mark Vesey yesterday, and he talked about how his district is just like crazy. And this is a result of the low turnout in the count, the undercount, and who was in power to redraw the lines and what they have done with it. And it's going to happen again. So, Lauren was right on point with that. We do need folks who are going to speak up, but it can't be us all the time. And someone has to have sense enough. There were times when people did say things, but this just took me back to too many slavery moments of watching her being cut off. And and we need you. We talk about say her name, say his name, say Hawley, say Cruz, say Cotton, say Graham. There was she got little digs in it. Then at one point, I think she was talking to Hawley when she talked about how nice everyone had been to her, and we all know they had not been nice to her. And if they believe that hype, like I say, she knew it. We have to suffer through that. I say she exhibited temperance, because just to sit there and just say, she had to have some things going on in her head, because
no question about it.
There were words I've never said before that were going on in my head.
Yeah, and if I don't know if we could bring that tweet back up, Denise, but it was from Aisha Cruz, I believe. If we can bring that back up, that would be great, because there it is right there. It says these white men are trying to ride into the White House on this Black woman's back. Not today, Satan. It does seem like they were commercial. This was like sound bites for Fox News, right, Denise? And you can respond and then go into what you were going to say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, just quickly, because I don't want to take up too much time. But yeah, I agree. I mean, clearly this was the stage. This is audition stage for the next leader of the Republican Party. So I think that was very clear, and people saw that, and they see it all the time because these same people are always posturing on every issue they can find, whether they're right or wrong.
Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to bring up quickly that Cheryl brought up, and that's really, really bothering me, because it's not so much what's going on inside of the Senate building, but all the work and effort that Black women and Black male organizations are doing right now to make sure that people across the country are reaching out to their senators to say, support this candidate. But where are those white women, especially who Black women have supported with these marches, with the issues? I mean, they've been out in mass. I don't see them. And these are the wives, as someone mentioned, the wives of these senators. But where are they? Why aren't we hearing from them as it relates to this, to this person, in support of Judge Jackson? It's been quiet on this end. I don't know what's happening in other places of the country, but I'm not seeing them on the steps of the Supreme Court, with Melanie Campbell and and the sororities and all the other groups. I'm not seeing them. And so what do we take from that? What do we take away from that?
Well, let me go to Rashonda and then Paris. Your thoughts on what Denise just put forward?
I mean, I agree. I think that what was happening there was they were talking to their constituents. They're absolutely right. They were setting the foundation for their presidential candidacy. I agree. Where is the other support? And I too feel that the Democrats should have been a little bit more stronger in coming out. In their opening remarks, they set the stage of how this is historic, how she is qualified, but having a little defense there, just a more of a stronger defense backbone, so to speak, would have been, hey, they got our back. I agree. So yeah.
And Rashonda, to Denise's point, it is disappointing, isn't it, that there are no allies, so to speak?
Yeah.
It is. We need more Kamalas in up there on that panel. Ketanji is an example of brilliant Black women who had the talent and the qualifications, but just not the opportunity to reach the apex of American society. And to sit there and to watch the attack on her, I would have liked to have seen more Democrats come back, especially Democratic women, come back just as forceful. But that, again, goes back to why we need more Kamalas in Congress. We need that strong voice, and we want the white women to stand up for us, just like, as Cheryl said, we stand up for them. As we go across the country and we march and protest, this is their opportunity now to do the same, because they are performing. The GOP is performing. They're putting on an act. They want to make sure they get those sound bites. And so this is our opportunity to make sure that our voices are heard as well.
Well, Claudette Perry writes into something that I tweeted as well. So I hear where she's coming from. I'm wondering too, what do we take from their obsession with porn? It was hours and hours of talk of child porn, and it made you wonder, wait a minute, is there an underlying thing going on here? I mean, it's something that was so weird.
That's what they wanted to hold against Hillary. It's something that they keep bringing up. Some of, like they say, this QAnon or whatever. Yeah. Where they believe that there's, they keep putting this cloud up there as if there's something going on, but clearly something they know that's going on or believe that's going on that the rest of us, are really sort of maybe ignoring. But yeah, there is something there. There's something that's there, Stacey, that I think raises a lot of questions about some of those folks up there on the Hill.
Stacey, they know she's not. They know she doesn't support child pornography. Right. What it is that's really all they have. They can't mess with her qualifications. They found a talking point to hitch their wagon on, and that's exactly what they did, and rode it all the way through.
And she mentioned on a number of occasions when they allowed her to finish her sentence, that not only did she sentence individuals convicted of child pornography, but there was, as she said, decades of supervision. And they kept going back to her saying supervision. meaning that they are trying to portray that she was letting them out on probation or something like that, and that was not the case. You know, Claudette Perry, I get suspicious when white men show this level of interest in pornography. Look, they showed just an incredible level of interest in pornography, and there was something like, you know, I guess Denise said it best. I mean, there's definitely something there, because you just don't spend all that valuable time, and as I think our producer Greer Marshall was saying in the conversation we had, wasting all this taxpayer money doing this nonsense, and that's a concern too, right? I mean, I know we're running overtime, but isn't that a concern? I mean, why isn't that a concern? I should say, because nobody's talking about it. You know, this waste of taxpayer money.
Well, we're talking about you talk about distraction, you know, and a good friend Dick Gregory used to say, when you're looking to the left, something is going on to the right. That it's a distraction, and those hearings, they're just a distraction from other things going on. And you mentioned about what the Supreme Court was doing, so we have to be alert at all times. But I am just being here in Texas, I just see how women, everybody could do anything they want to Black women. Black women can be raped, and other Black women organizations won't come out and say anything. So, you know, this is a clarion call to folks that we need to speak up, but we need to hold other folks accountable also. It shouldn't just fall on Black women to support Black women or Black men. Anyone with a conscience, anyone, you know, let the woman finish a sentence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't ask a question. And then you're right out there. They basically in their talk called her a liar several times.
Well, yeah, and that was just, you know, it was as bad as it got. Now they expect to convene and vote on this on the 4th, and then a full committee, a full Senate vote is expected to, at least the Democrats want it to take place before they break for the holiday on April 11th. So are we expecting two things? Are we expecting any Republicans to vote for her? And the second thing, and perhaps more important, are we expecting any Democrats, Manchin, Sinema, to vote against her?
All right, that's a good question. And I think there are going to be some Republican senators that vote for her. And, you know, it just really speaks to the hypocrisy as we watch the last person to join the Supreme Court. And this is something we have to be very mindful. Again, I think it was Rashonda that mentioned about the voting. You have to find a way. I was thinking of Stacey Abrams when all of it was going on also, but I thought about the countless other women that they're in a place, you know, that folks were watching for the judge's reaction to things. And she was very poised. And like I say, sometimes even a reaction after so many hours, they try to make it intense, but she was dealing with lightweight. She was not dealing with substantive questions and people that even knew the law. And I wonder, you know, when Cruz said he was her classmate, you know, and she kind of correct, I think they were a year apart or whatever and everything, because little subtle ways, she said, you're not here with me.
Well, by the way, Donald Trump Jr. has started running commercials against the nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson, saying that she is a child rapist apologist. That is horrendous.
That's the height of hypocrisy.
It is horrendous. And
but you know, I want to add one, and maybe you all can correct history if I'm wrong. But when I look at Ketanji, I also think about Anita Hill, and when Judge Thomas's nomination and how she was grilled, you know, just like similarly, and you know, she has come out in support of Judge Jackson. So you know, but I think about, again, going back to that topic that you raised before, Stacey, and listening to how she had to give such she didn't have to, but she agreed, to give this testimony, but still how they took it all out of context for her. And the way they grilled her, during that period. And so here you are, another Black woman now against a Black man, maybe rightfully so, but in that same hot seat with these same kinds of questions and posturing. It's
Yeah.
I just had to, her when I saw her, that's what I thought about.
Yeah, I always say that hatred and racism blinds you, right? And so what's going on here is that they are setting this up for even more Black history to be made, because if it is 50-50, as we mentioned on the show yesterday, then guess who gets to cast the tie-breaking vote? The Black Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. So that in itself would be another history-making moment, really a profound moment, to have a Black woman cast the final vote to push over the top the nomination of the first Black Supreme Court, Black woman Supreme Court justice. Predictions. We have first. Let's show this tweet, because I really want to see this tweet from Cory Booker, and actually we're going to play a statement too about Cory Booker. I say, Michelle Norris, after that "God had got you" speech, Cory Booker will never again have to stand in line or fix his own plate or wait for a cool drink at the
That's a good
that is an epic tweet if it ever was. Let's show it one more time. Wow,
Michelle. Yeah,
that is epic. Michelle Norris. Michelle, big ups to Michelle. That's a great tweet. Wow. Donna Brazil says, America, you may not love me, but I will love you, at Cory Booker. Wow. I tell you what, they say the internet is undefeated, and Michelle just confirmed that once again. Wow. So I didn't get predictions from Paris and Rashonda, and I don't think I got your prediction, Denise, but let's start with Paris. Your prediction.
She'll be confirmed. And I think that what will happen, if there are no Republican senators that do not support it, it really they're just on an international platform to support the bigotry and what they already do. She'll get confirmed without a doubt. And in terms of Cory Booker, there's nothing like a Black man that says, I have your back. And I mean, he said this before international stage. You're right. He won't have to fix his plate or stand in line. He's the man, as they would say.
Rashonda, your thoughts, your prediction?
I definitely think she'll be confirmed. It is expected to be one of the closest votes in history. And that's a sad testament. When you look at the qualifications of Ketanji Brown Jackson in relation to everybody else that came through the courts, but she ultimately will be confirmed. It would just be wonderful if that deciding vote could come from Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and Denise?
Yeah, I say ditto. I agree with my fellow publishers here, and I believe that she will be confirmed. I think that we also need to start thinking down the line of who may be the next person, because there may be a seat opening up again that we will have to begin to fight for. And I would just say to Cory Booker, I have a regular plate for you. You don't have to use
Wait, Denise, we all use the paper plates now at the barbecue.
No, he get a regular plate.
He'll get a real plate.
And a big cup of Kool-Aid.
Show you giving him a real plate. You got to stick to the paper
that's
plate.
my homeboy. He's from Newark, New Jersey. And I think about these. I'm one of those people that when I go to an event, like when there was like those giants who have done so much for us, I just want to give them a glass of water. I just want to say, is there anything I can do for you for all? Because I know it has not been easy. And, this is, it's just wonderful. Yes, Cory Booker, I'm so proud of New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey, where I was born, because he represented. And, I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that from our Black men and from society, from America, because for too long, people have stood on our backs.
Yeah, and David Youngblood is one up in all you ladies. He says that not only is Cory Booker getting a plate, he's gonna get a to-go plate as well.
I have a special container for him that won't be.
There you go. With the aluminum foil and everything, right?
Okay, I don't want him to be able to throw the plate away. I want him to hold on to the plate. We need him to have a plate with some good food on it so that he can be sustained for out as long as possible.
Well, Denise, you mentioned the possibility of a second pick, and listen, why not? As Claudette Perry says, Barack Obama. That would be a great Senate confirmation process, wouldn't that be? My goodness. And I think Dr. Chavis is hanging out backstage. If Dr. Chavis wants to come on and say hello to his publishers here, that would be fantastic. Dr. Chavis, are you with us? Oh, Dr. Chavis has exited stage left. Elvis has left the building. So, so with that, we certainly thank our great panelists of strong Black women. We work with them every day, and so we can testify. I can testify that these are some great Black women, just like Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. On April the 4th, the committee will be voting. We will be keeping an eye on that, and then the full committee, the full Senate, should cast their votes. Hopefully by April the 11th, before the recesses begin, so that this process can end and we can all see history being made once again. It extends Black History Month from February to April, doesn't it? Go ahead, Denise.
No, I was just going to say we cannot forget the significance of the date of April the 4th, which was the date we lost Dr. Martin Luther King. And so that's a very, very important date in Black history or in American history. So let's not forget what symbolism that may have on that particular date.
Yeah, excellent point. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Thanks again for joining us. We will see you tomorrow.